Hello there. Welcome back. I'll try and keep this short, sweet, to the point, because otherwise I'll just go off on tangents, and I don't think you came here to listen to me go off on tangents. That's what lackluster entertainment is for. But as you've already seen, I got the water pump and the pulley in. That's all great. Whatever. I just flushed the cooling system. To flush the cooling system, pretty simple. You're going to want to remove your thermostat flange. You're going to want to disconnect your hose from the radiator. You're going to want to pull your thermostat out. You're going to want to put the flange back on. And you're going to want to put the hose back on down there. You want to leave it off up here where your radiator is at, because to flush your system, you're going to stick a garden hose in the upper part of your radiator, and that water will circulate through your engine and it will come out this hose. And so you leave this hose out here and it just, that's where the water drains. When you get your system all filled up with water, you got your hose in here, some water will shoot back out, but it will go ahead and force enough water through that it will flush your system. So just keep in mind, some water will come out of here, but most of it should come out of your hose, here. The other thing, you want to make sure that drain down there is shut before you start flushing it. And be careful, because that little plug there will come out if you unscrew it too much. And then when you're done flushing your system, and you know you're done when the water coming out of your hose is clear, and when you're done, you'll want to open that valve back up and drain the water out of the system. Because if you don't, it's going to mess with your cooling system, your fluid mix. Because you're going to want to go back in with brand new antifreeze, and it's got to be 50% antifreeze, 50% water. They sell pre-diluted. If you want to do that, if you want to mix it yourself, go ahead. I advise you use distilled water, since you're filling your system back up completely. The occasional top off, you're probably not going to hurt it too bad by using hose water, but you're better off to use distilled water in any case, if you can. That's why the pre-diluted stuff is a bit of a better bargain, because it's already mixed and it's distilled water, so you're good there. That's how you drain your cooling system, and that's what you should probably do when you fill it back up. So I got that done. The other thing I did, and I did some of this the other day, I didn't film it because it was it was late in the day, it was getting overcast, and I didn't want to screw with filming because I was wrestling this fuel tank around. As you can see, it's all back in where it's supposed to be. You got the main lines hooked up, got the power plugged in, got that line and that line hooked up. And in episode 3, I showed you all of the rubber lines that came off of that T behind this frame rail. Well, I got all those replaced, and I went back in with 3/8 line. And I am telling you right now, 1/2-inch line is going to be a lot easier to screw with. If you ever do this, use 1/2-inch fuel line. The 3/8 stuff, I had a hell of a time getting it on. It ain't coming off, I'll tell you that. It'll work. But I should have went with 1/2-inch line, and next time I will. Now you might ask, well, why didn't you just go back to the store and get 1/2-inch line? Because I'm a ways from town. So, excuse me, a round trip to town and I mean, this is if you get in and out of the store in just a couple minutes. A round trip to town is anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes, round trip. And when I got back from work, it was already 4 o'clock, and I didn't want to take 40 minutes to go into town right at closing time for the auto shop and get different fuel line and then come back home and then try and get it all on. I just didn't want to screw with it. So when I got all those fuel lines on, I got one end of the tank up and suspended, got that strap secured. Yeah, there's a bolt for it. And then today, I jacked the other end up and got the other strap secured. So fuel tank is on there, and we're good to go. Just got to secure my fill and my overflow lines, and that'll be good to go. So then, trip over. Probably should move that. That's a tripping hazard. But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, to test the fuel system to make sure it works, I got to go down there and plug that one connector back in. You can't see it right now, but it's right down in there. I got to plug that connector in and then press the fuel reset button and then turn the key on. And from what the manual there stated, if you turn the key on, your fuel pump should run for about 2 to 3 seconds and then shut off if you have not started the engine. And you should be able to hear it run if it's working properly. I'm not hooking that back up right now because I had a thought and about the engine. It hasn't run in 3 years. I mean, it fired the other day when I was trying to see if it was seized, but I'm not going to call that running. It started a little bit. But what I want to do, because I drained the oil, it looks good. I changed the oil filter, changed the fuel filter, a few days ago. And what I want to do is leave the engine, I want to leave the fuel off because I want to spin the engine and see if I can build oil pressure before I put fuel to it. And because all I have to do at this point is plug a connector in and press a button to turn the fuel system back on. If I spin the engine, if I get oil pressure, I'm going to feel a lot better about stuff. And I think that's what I'm going to try and do. Now, that would require me to get a better battery or have somebody else here to to have jumper cables on that battery to give me some extra power. And then I can get oil pressure built up and get it circulated around. And I know that in these more modern engines, those pumps are supposed to work really fast. That's why the oil's thinner, because it's easier for the pump to move it quickly, especially when it's cold. And I get all that, but I mean, it hasn't run for 3 years, and I'm pretty sure the valve train and the pistons and the rods and everything else, I'm not going to say dry, but they don't have a lot of oil on them. And so the last thing I want to do is start spinning it really fast, because to start, I mean, at most, it's only going to spin it at 300 RPM, that starter. And then, but if it's idling, it's going to run at about 1,000 RPM. And I'd rather get some oil thrown around in there before I start running it, higher than starting speed. That's why I haven't hooked any of the fuel system up. Otherwise, I'd be like, oh yeah, the fuel system works. I'm kind of nervous about it. I think it works. I hope it does. I put a new pump in it. All the connections look good. But we'll find out pretty quick if it doesn't work, I tell you what. So the only other thing I'm going to do today, I think, is not toss, but I'm going to put the fan shroud and the fan and the tensioner and the idler and probably the alternator on. I might even put the serpentine belt on to make sure I got the right one. And then Friday, I should have my thermostat. I'll throw that in. I'll get antifreeze and some more oil. I need some more oil to fill the reservoir up, and I'll do all that and probably do a test run Saturday, maybe Friday if I'm really lucky. But the other thing, the degas bottle, I got to put that in. It's a coolant tank, but Ford calls it a degas bottle, and well, it's obvious I'm a certified Ford mechanic, so I have to call it by the Ford approved name. But it mounts there and there and there, and then there's that hose that goes to it. But that's what I'm going to get started on. Get something done today. It's a little damp outside, little overcast, but it's kind of damp. It's clearing off, but it's damp outside, and so I went into work, and the boss said, well, it's just wet enough. We probably should wait till tomorrow. So that's fine by me. I'll get something done here. Well, anyway, I better get off of here before I start talking about things that aren't related to what I wanted to talk about in this video. Tangents. I go off on them frequently. Anyway, I won't keep you guys. I appreciate you tuning in and watching, and I hope to see you back again when I have an update.